One is if you go on raising the rate of investment, your growth rate will start going up. And if you improve the efficiency in the use of capital and don't do it inefficiently, then for less capital, you can get more growth. So we try to do both these things. But then we have noticed as economists that a country which relies only on investment and efficiency in the use of that investment, then a law of diminishing returns comes after a point. You can't go on raising beyond a certain point. I think the maximum you can do is perhaps 40% of your GDP, the rate of saving or rate of investment. So therefore, we have found by study of past economies that innovation is a very important part. So if I want to put it mathematically or graphically, I'll say if you have capital in one axis and labor in another axis, then you have a curve which will start tapering off as more and more capital and labor are being used. But if you have innovation, then you will jump curves. You'll have one curve like that, then another curve over it, and another curve over it, and you can go jumping. And all countries, Japan included, East Asia included, the United States, of course, and Europe, they have all grown by innovation. For instance, Britain started with locomotives and Bessemer's blast furnace. Then the Americans brought in wireless, electricity, and then later on jet engines, and finally the computer. So you will find that those countries which have gone in for innovations are ones which have made most good. So the youth policy would be to motivate our people to think in terms of producing innovations for the economy. We are short of water, desalinate seawater. We are short of fuel for electricity, and our coal is running out. Then use thorium. If you have or you don't want to import so much oil from Western countries, from West Asia, then go in for hydrogen fuel cells for motor cars. So like this, so preparing the youth is very important. And I'll say youth need two things. And with that, I'll conclude. Then you can ask me questions. Because I was told I should speak for 10 minutes. So if you want me to speak longer, I can, but let there be more questions. Youth in our country need two things. One is our youth is very timid. They don't take risk. I go to the business school, say in Ahmedabad, in the IIM, and I ask them, what are you going to do after you get your MBA? Oh, we'll join some corporation and get a nice job. This is the general. They don't want to, take the risk of trying something new, create a new innovation. Like in America, you find so many people have created so many new innovations, whether it's Microsoft or whether it is Google or whether it's now the cyber currency that is coming. So all these things are new innovations, and they are being done by really young people. In India, we have to motivate our people that go for innovations. Not everybody goes for innovations, but at least the brightest ones should be motivated. And that's one thing. Second is a psychological makeup, which is necessary for a modern mind. Today, we are so afraid of risk that we are all the time worried that if I do this, that will go wrong. If I speak like this, somebody will turn against me, and then I won't get my promotion. We are become a nation of very timid people. And so to bring in some kind of dynamism, the Vedas and our Upanishads had taught this, but now the Americans have modernized what our ancient gurus used to teach in their Gurukul. And that is 6 different branches of intelligence. What you learn in your schools and colleges is what is called as cognitive intelligence. But now there's another dimension of intelligence, which is called emotional intelligence. The way you present your arguments, the way you win over people in arguments, and so on. So that's a whole new subject, and you can buy books on it and learn. Then something called moral intelligence, spiritual intelligence, environmental intelligence, innovational intelligence. So there are now many branches of intelligence which have to be taught. And my final word is that if you want to learn how to live a happy life, then you just have to read Bhagavad Gita and adopt what Krishna says, that you have only freedom of action. The outcome of your action, you may have a target, you may have a goal, but the outcome of the action will not be decided by your efforts alone. I will decide it. In other words, work for a goal, but don't be heartbroken if you don't achieve that goal. If you develop that mentality and then you decide to try again, then you will become great entrepreneurs. And that is what I mean by preparing the youth for policy making. Thank you.
So thank you so much for your address. I think we opened the registrations about 1.5 days back, and to our surprise, we had about 4,000 people who registered on the link to hear you, and everyone wanted to ask you a question. So
Okay.
apparently, so
Okay.
apparently, what we had to do is that we had to do a contest wherein we told all of them to make a 2-minute video and send it to us, wherein they are talking wherein they are talking on how can India revive the economy. So we have this one person who has been selected out of the 132 videos that we received, who is also going to ask the question. So I'll just add Devanshi, who
Yes.
has been selected for the question, and then we'll move on to the questions from the panel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Devanshi, please go on.
Thank you, Rajan. Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you're very clearly audible.
Since you have already stated that policy making is when we state the priorities and objectives, and therefore it is necessary that the youth also comes up with their preferences and objectives. But, sir, I wanted to ask, is it actually feasible to reconcile the objectives and ideologies of two such distinct groups? That is the youth on one hand and the people who are actually running the government on the other hand, sir.
Well, I don't think they should consider them as antagonistic. There was a tradition earlier in our country, and certainly in the ancient days, where those who were running the show used to take apprentices and train them to succeed them. But today, this maybe because of our past history of 1,000 years, people are very insecure and they get easily jealous. And I've seen even teachers being jealous of students. So that character flaw is responsible for this division that you are talking about. There should be no division. People who are elders to you have experience. And if they are not insecure, they will build you up. Although I'm not formally trained to be a lawyer, I've been formally trained to be an economist. But I have lots of lawyers who came as law students, and today they are already people who have got a flourishing practice, and their name is known because I never felt insecure because I was not in law. So therefore, I didn't worry if they will overtake me. In fact, I would be happier if they overtook me. So I think that psychology will come slowly because all this colonialism and the past foreign invasions and so on has made us mentally dented. And once we go back to the old system where the guru and the chela, had a symbiotic relationship by which the chela ultimately took the position of the guru. And that kind of thing will happen. There won't be this division. So this is only temporary. Maybe your generation after another 15 years might be like that. Or maybe it'll be a little longer, but doesn't matter. But India is moving in the right direction.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Devanshi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajan.
Sir, so we have had Parul students from Parul University who are our knowledge partners, and we all have students from various schools. You wouldn't believe we have students from all across 62 cities that from India that have registered and that are watching you. So I think
Wow.
Kunal, we can go on and have your question.
Swamiji, namaste. I wanted to ask you something related to the young people, as Devanshi rightly said. As you said that the average age of an Indian is 26 years old.
That's right.
When we see the parliament, we do not really see young people representing the country. So how can we understand that experience is something which is really important and that should be at the top? But do you really think the political parties should have a kind of reservation for young people to contest elections? Because when we see politicians on a local level, we it is really disheartening to say that they do not really have a vision, not just for the country, but not even for the city. So how can you help us tell that how can youth be participative in our democracy?
Well, you see, I came to Parliament for the first time at the age of 34, and I was the youngest.
True.
And but the times have changed. Things have become more competitive, and there's much more money to be made in politics than those days. So all kinds of people have come. And they would promote, they do promote youngsters, but then they either from the same family or they are people boneless creatures. And that's defeating the purpose. Reservation is not the way to do it, because what will happen is in the reservation, again, the selection of the nomination for candidates. The people also in our country are still not used to vesting power in the youth. They love to see the youth. They give a lot of attention to them, but ultimately experience seems to count with our people. So you are in what is called as a catch-22 situation, and we have to get out of it. I think what we need to do is the ideal situation, I don't know how we're going to reach that, is that somebody senior should have 4 or 5 youngsters. He should develop them. He should put them up and then go and campaign for them to get elected. And, this grooming concept, that has to come. But I don't think the youth mind is such that the complexity of governance, not that the present senior people understand the complexity of the situation. Today we have a problem with China and the border, how to deal with it. Very few people know what to do. People talk about all this concept of we should teach them a lesson, we should throw them out, and so on. Jawaharlal Nehru tried that and backfired. You should be prepared for all that. So I am saying that the complexity of the situation is getting more and more, and we need people with experience and knowledge. And therefore, there has to be a combination of young people and senior politicians working together, and there cannot be a class struggle between the two.
We really hope that time comes, sir. And with you as a 34-year-old going to the parliament, it is an inspiration not just to Team Chhatra Sansad, but to each and every person who's watching us. Aditya, we come to the next question.
Sir, we had this question coming in. You were part of the opposition and the majority as well right now. So do you think is it possible to have bipartisan laws where members of both the parties come together and believe in the betterment of the society? When will we see our politicians come up with bipartisan laws?
I don't think there's any country where you find opposition and ruling party coming together and coming to a common understanding of what needs to be done. Generally speaking, I think India is a pretty bad example of the division between the opposition and the ruling party, because there has been no healthy attitude towards to elections. People want to continue forever, and if the system can be rigged, so they try to rig it. So earlier on, the rigging was based on caste, religion, and so on. And the unity of people on basis of culture and all, I'm not opposed to it. But this antagonistic feeling that gets created, and in this the media revels in it a lot, and so many things are attributed to you which you haven't said, and that leads to a chain reaction and so on. But I think our country, we are still not voting on the basis of merit. So we are voting whether on my caste, on my region, my language, my religion. So this kind of thing, you see, will ultimately throw up people in parliament who will not have anything common with another person. They won't be able to speak the same language. So over the period, I think this is melting. I'm pretty sure now that there is much less basis voting on the basis of these divisions, and there's unity, and there's a growing unity, and that's why today we have new parties which are coming into power. You can have Mayawati coming to power as chief minister in UP, which would have never been thought as possible. And we have a highly educated person as chief minister of Orissa, and and he has been elected 5 times in a row. So I think it's possible. And I also want to point out to you that in the post-emergency 1977 election, it was thought that only the educated people will vote for democracy, whereas the illiterate would vote for dictatorship because it was more orderly, and trains were running on time, and the babus were coming to office on time, that kind of thing. But when the results came out, the South, which is much highly educated, Kerala and Tamil Nadu are 100% educated, they all voted in favor of Mrs. Gandhi and therefore the emergency. Whereas the wholly uneducated North, which popularly called as Bimaru states, for Bihar and Orissa and so on and so forth, there's a acronym is created called Bimaru states. These voted even Indira Gandhi out from our own constituency, which was unthinkable. So I think this cultural base of India is for democracy, and that's why democracy has survived in our country and not in our neighborhoods and other places. And we need in order to move ahead where there is opposition and ruling party discussing and coming to a common conclusion, that will come if the election is fought on issues and not on caste, region, language, and so on.
We'll have Saideep Conreddy, the editorial head of Chhatra Sansad, sir, asking you the question, and then we move to the questions of all our viewers.
Good evening, sir. Sir, we recently saw how dependent we are on migrant labor. In Gujarat itself, the textile industry and diamond industry is highly dependent on migrant labor. And you said we need to progress innovation. So how can we use innovation to reduce our dependency on migrant labor such that they too can pursue education and get into better jobs and not in the unorganized sector?
If they get free education, they will not be migrant labor. They are migrant labor because they can't afford education. And so what else can you do? You just go and take daily wage worker or do this, and then on the job you learn something and you get a little promotion, that sort of thing. That's exploitation. Make education so easily available that you don't have to even resort to reservations. Reservations I'm not against. But when people complain, I've got 97%, but because of reservation, I'm not getting admission. That means you don't have enough universities. So these are things, we spend only 2.5% of our GDP on education. When, as far back as 1966, the Kothari Commission came to the conclusion it should be at least 6%. United States government may not spend that much, but all the people, business houses and so on, get all these tax deductions, which you don't have in our country. So they put money in universities. All the important universities in the United States, like Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, etc. They all are founded by the alumni of the university, not by the government. And they do not rely on government grants. Yeah, there may be some project for which the government wants the university to do something, they may give to individual scholars. But the university system is self-dependent on the alumni. The more alumni they produce, the better. Now, that kind of system we should have. The old days, in our ancient days, we used to have Gurukul system. Now, one teacher, he did everything. When you joined that Gurukul, then all your food, lodging, everything was looked after by the teacher. You don't have to pay anything to the teacher. Now, that you can't do it now in this 21st century. So I would say make education free. And in open universities in such large numbers, which means you have to pay teachers enough so that people want to be teachers. Today, does anybody want to be a teacher? If they can get a job in a multinational company, they will any day quit for it. So make it worthwhile, raise the status of teacher to what it was in the ancient days, and attract people to go to universities. Then you won't have this problem. There's no other way. You can't think of innovations. You'll just kill people, but you will not be able to replace them.
Perfect. Sir, there is just one question which comes in. There are a lot of questions which have already come in, but there's one important question which not just the viewers, but the whole country wants to know. How do you think that the government has tackled the COVID-19 situation? And if you would have been our representative, how different would have you been leading the whole country?
Well, I would have certainly taken, I had information, that is the country had information, as early as January end, that this virus can spread if people leave Wuhan or China and come to other countries. And at that time, we should have begun the process. But we got stuck with this visit of Trump. And then we had to pass the budget. And so by the time we brought down the lockdown, it was 25th of March. And we had, I think, only 4 hours notice. So it was done very badly stage. Although I give credit to our health scientists and doctors, and particularly the Minister for Health, Harshvardhan, even today, our mortality rate, which is very hard to hide. You can hide the number of people who have got it because they don't get reported. But it's very difficult not to report a death. And our social system is such that people publicize when a death takes place. So I would say the death rate is still very, very low. We have worked very hard since then. But lockdown is not a solution. It's a breathing. It was a breather. What we need is till we get a vaccine, we should have to have cultural habit changes. And for our country, it's a very, very difficult thing because of its poverty. And another unfortunate part is our economy has been declining since 2015. I have been warning about it, been talking about the tailspin. I even written a book called Reset. And unfortunately, it wasn't taken seriously. And my party people themselves thought I was speaking against the party. They were all trying to run me down for it. But today, we have the most miserable situation from all countries, that we have an economy which is on the verge of collapse, and at the same time this corona has come. And perhaps now a new problem, that is the Chinese crossing our borders. So I think we have a very tough task. And what I would have done differently is I would have brought down I would have told Mr. Trump, listen, I love your coming. The whole country is looking forward to it, but not now. Just let this pass and then do it. He would have understood. He's a practical man. And we should have started planning from the first week of February. We should have a vote on accounts. That is, you don't need a budget and a fancy speech from the finance minister. You got to just add a vote on account means just whatever you had previous year plus minus 1%, 2% added to it, and then started the process of warning people that if you don't have social distancing, we are going to come down to lockdown. Lockdown is going to hurt you. Should have given them 2 weeks notice. And then if you have gone forward, what is that? Lockdown in many countries hasn't produced that much result as, say, for instance, Sweden doesn't have any lockdown at all. Its results are not that bad, you see. So lockdown is helpful because it makes it easier for us to track down people who have got corona. But it's not it's like aspirin. It can't be a substitute for curing the disease.
Sir,
Yeah, please.
Sir, I think this is an important question when it comes to having young minds in our Indian policy making. You are somebody who I think has mastered the art of taking criticism positively, not only from the oppositions but from within as well. So how do you think? What is your one message to the young minds who in fact either get demotivated because of criticism that they receive? So what is that one message that you want to give young minds on the criticism that they receive? How they should tackle it?
You can tackle criticism if you don't savor praise. Somebody praises you, just take it in your stride. Somebody told me that how come people can't flatter you? I said, because I think more highly of myself than anybody can think. So if anybody says something nice, it's always less than what I think of myself. So, in a sense that don't get carried away by good words. If you are satisfied that you have done and achieved your goal, or you have done your best, and you're going to try again because you failed this time, you're going to try again, you're not disappointed, then I don't think anyone will worry about criticism. And I've been criticized, in the 60s and 70s, I was targeted by the communists because I said socialism will not work. And they said, this guy is an American agent. No, God knows. And they threw me out of IIT. Of course, IIT had to pay a heavy price. I went back to court, and after 47 years, I got reinstated. But I also got my back salary at 8% interest. It's a great convenience for me in having clean being clean in politics. So I think as I look back, if you feel something very strongly and you have tested your ideas with your peers, with your elders and so on, and then said, yes, this is necessary, then you will find that over a period of time, you will be vindicated. So yeah, in the interim, you have to have that stamina to survive criticism, I think the issue of this thing is the upbringing. I think the parents also, when a child fails, you should not abuse that child or make her feel small and say you'll be ruined, what will you'll be a chaprasi and all that. No, you encourage it. It's all right. You tried this time, it didn't happen. Next time, again try. Keep trying till you get good marks. The child itself will improve. I have seen that. My two children were top of the class, and they, in the first 1 or 2 times, they got grades and they were very upset. I said, why? Did you do your best? They said, yes, we worked as hard as we could. And then I said, well, then that's all that you are entitled. That's what Lord Krishna says in Gita. So you now do it again. And next time they came top of the class, and then the whole thing changed. So that in our country, we don't encourage people, especially children. And that is a job of the parents, but the parents were not encouraged when they were children. So it's just going like a cycle.
Yes, Varun, if you can ask the question and then we can move.
Dr. Swamy, I wanted to ask you that recently I was watching one of your interviews to an international media house, and you stated your discontentment with the religion of Islam. Uh, and it is also a fact that our country has a very large population of Muslims. So, how do we reconcile these two facts?
You're talking about that vice of
Yes,
Canada.
yes, Dr. Swamy.
Well, you heard a cut and splice
Yeah,
version of my interview, and I'm suing a lot of people. The United Nations Under Secretary General also was fooled, and he made a statement against me. So I filed a defamation case against him, filed one defamation against BBC on the same issue, and also with the Indian Express. So so I can say I'm having fun at the distortion they've done. What I said is this, which is being misused. And I'll tell you what I said. And I said in the CAA debate in Parliament, which is what they also quoted, right? Saying that Muslims are not equal to Hindus. That's the remark that is that's come to your notice. Am I right? That is the okay. What happened is the list that was prepared for those people coming from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh had only Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, and Parsis, but didn't have Muslims. Why were they left out? So one explanation we gave is that these are people who have come because of religious persecution, and you don't expect a Muslim to come from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh on religious persecution. So nobody came. And so we don't have so we didn't include their name. They said, no, you should have put it in any way because Muslims have equal rights under Article 14 of the Constitution. Now that pricked my legal knowledge. And I said, first of all, under Article 14, you don't have equal rights. Hindus and Muslims don't have equal rights. For example, I am a Brahmin, allegedly. I mean, there's no such thing as a born Brahmin, but I am a Jnani and Tyagi, so therefore I can qualify as a Brahmin. Take me as a Brahmin as an example. And scheduled caste is getting reservation. But Brahmins are not getting reservation. Can I go and say to the court, equality before law? If they get reservation, I should also get reservation. And people have gone like that. And the Supreme Court said, Article 14 is equality of equals, not equality of unequals. So therefore, the scheduled caste have a right because they have been persecuted. So they have a right to reservation, but you don't have a right to reservation. So same way here, the question of persecution was there. And Muslim countries do not persecute Muslims. I mean, for religious reasons. So that cannot be compared with a Hindu or a Christian or a Buddhist being persecuted with religions. So according to law, Hindus and Muslims are not equal. This is what I said. They chopped all that and said, Swami said this. And it's gone all over. Now you see, my wife is a Parsi. I have a son-in-law who's a Muslim. Now, how can I be anti-Muslim? You see, I don't understand this psychology. You go and talk to my son-in-law and ask him whether I have persecuted him. You see, ask my wife, have I, tried to force my Hinduism on her? So she's a lawyer. She'll probably file a case against me also. So I am saying that this distortion, because of the fact that Pakistani, this whole thing started with Imran Khan attacking me. Now, why would Imran Khan attack a member of parliament in India? Because in Pakistan, the impression is that I'm the most effective proponent of Hindutva. I put my arguments in such rational terms that people are accepting it. So blacken his name. That's how it all started. So therefore, I have nothing against anybody who's an Indian. He's entitled to all the laws and constitutional privileges. And there's no question of Hindu-Muslim discrimination. But the Supreme Court has interpreted how it can be applied. In the case of Article 14, it says it has to be equality of equals, It cannot be equality of unequals.
So there is one question which is coming in from the viewers regarding the recent incident which took place in Kerala about the elephants, about the killing of elephants. What do you have to speak about that, sir? What is your stand on it?
I have suggested that you declare an elephant as a national animal, like peacock has been declared as a national bird, and make it IPC sections applicable to anyone who does anything harmful, even a pinprick for an elephant, because an elephant deserves to be protected, and it is being used, its tusk is being cut out for ivory, all kinds of horrible things are happening. And we need to preserve it. And it is used in religious functions, it is used in circus, it's used even for transportation. So we cannot protect the elephant. This happened because the elephants in that area have been a menace to the farmers. So the farmers have been doing this, and this is a highly cruel way of putting crackers inside the stomach and blowing up its stomach and all that. It's horrible. But the motivation has been this. So in order to tell the farmers that you run a huge risk, we should declare the elephant as a national animal.
Right, sir. I think we've already gone over time, but before we just let you go, I just wanted to ask, what are your, so you kicked off Chhatra Sansad back in 2015, and what are your views on Chhatra Sansad and the importance of young organizations in the development of our country? And when can we see you at one of our Chhatra Sansad events that are happening very soon?
So many requests. The man who handles it, poor chap, is Jagdish Shetty, whom you contacted this time also. Go after him. He's in Bombay, so easy to contact. And he is a very good-natured man, and he gave up a huge. I mean, how many lakhs he was getting? Because he's an expert on real estate law, they call regulations or something. And so he was in huge demand, but he decided to give it up because he had earned enough, he thought. And he's doing full-time, free. And he is adept, and his son is originally Goldman Sachs. He resigned that also. He's also there. So they're all computer wizards. So you just talk to him and it can be arranged without difficulty. I would like to be with young people because I'm basically at heart a professor. And I would have been a professor if the communists hadn't forced me out of the university and ensured I didn't get a job anywhere in India. And I didn't want to go back to America. So therefore I came to politics.
No, we really thank Jagdish sir because he has been really kind on accepting the invitations, and we really thank you for coming in.
I think we would just like to thank Parul University and Endeavor Careers, one who's our knowledge partners and the participating partners. Thank you so much, Dr. Swamy. I think we've gone over time, but you've been kind enough to answer all our questions, and it has been a pleasure having you here with all of us. And we would like to thank all the students as well who have joined in to hear Dr. Swamy.
And also apologize to them because we were not able to take all the questions because we were running out of time and there's so many questions coming to us. Thank you so much, Dr. Swamy.
So thank you so much, Dr. Swamy, for taking out the time.
Welcome and see you again.
100%.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for all the participants who have been sending their questions and telling us that we have not been able to ask those questions. From the next of our webinars, I would request all of you to give us two-liner questions because it becomes really difficult for us to, read such long paragraphs, and we want questions. We are not looking forward to suggestions here. We're not looking forward to what actually you think. We want real questions, two-liner questions. So it becomes really easier for all the panelists to come and ask those questions. We really thank each and every single person who's with us. And we make sure that we have more such webinars and more such interactive sessions where you can also participate. Join Chhatra Sansad, and we look forward to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.